Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
Welcome to Caribbean Perspective. So glad you can join us. The story that takes the lead in today's edition for Wednesday, 21st August 2024, and brought to you in association with our friends at Antillean Group. What a daunting task as Haiti struggles to come back from the brink of total collapse. Details after this important message.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all, perils big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so glad to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Welcome back. Haiti is slowly trying to come back from the brink of national collapse. The nation's new prime minister is leading the way, but he has a daunting task. The first is to restore safety and stability. Calvin Hughes of WPLG Local 10 News out of Miami reports.
Yeah, we arrived here just around 4 o'clock today here in the capital city in a place that is in a very difficult struggle right now between lawlessness and order. It is estimated that gangs control about 80% of the city here. But I do want to give you a bit of a snapshot right now of what we saw from our ride from the airport to our hotel today. We saw people mingling about, hanging out on a Sunday afternoon. Police did have a presence on just about every corner. They made their presence felt. However, we were in a bulletproof vehicle on our way from the airport to the hotel, and we did not have any issues whatsoever getting to our destination. And now to the Prime Minister, who was in that job nearly a decade ago, managing a back-breaking earthquake. And now he is back more than a decade later, Gary Conille, managing a political crisis for this country to turn this country around, to secure it, and to have elections by 2026.
The land of mountains, Haiti, was once called the crown jewel of the Caribbean. Haiti and hope have been strangers for far too long. The assassination of President Jovenel Moïse in July of 2021 opened the door for disaster and destroyed daily life. In our last interview, 2 months before his death, Moïse told me he was working to control gangs. Within months, violent gangs caused the airport and schools to shut down. Gangsters have raided banks, have taken over homes, hospitals, neighborhoods, families living in absolute fear. Even Sunday church has been a target for kidnappings. By the time the international community responded, it was estimated gangs controlled 80% of Haiti's capital city, more than 60% of Haitians living in poverty, and millions facing a food shortage. By April, Ariel Henry, the ex-prime minister, was out, and the Caribbean country was breaking, but not quite broken. A new transitional presidential council made up of Caribbean nations selected new Prime Minister Gary Conille, a doctor with a reputation for building after his work with the United Nations and UNICEF. He has only 2 years to rebuild a government that has no parliament or president. He knows democracy here is on life support. The finish line is having free and fair elections by 2026. But everything is riding on the backs of the multinational police force, led by hundreds of Kenyan troops. They're only weeks into their mission. Can they restore security in the country? Can they take back control from ruthless gangs? The future of the Caribbean nation is depending on a lot more going right than wrong. The future of the next generation is depending on the Prime Minister getting it right. And so is the friendship between hope and Haiti. For they have been strangers for far too long.
Here are some of the views of Trinidadians as to what they thought about plans to change the national emblem, the coat of arms of Trinidad and Tobago. TTT News has some of the public views.
It are better things to study rather than to change that. Look how long that day. So I just think that they need to study the crime system about what's going on in the country and how poor people living underneath that poverty line.
I guess it was a great initiative in a sense that it's more centralized for the country itself than something that's relating to history and, the colonizer and so forth. So I guess in essence, it's a great initiative, but I don't know, I've not seen such a general impact of how, it is in general. But it's a great initiative in essence.
I find it's a good idea to remove him from the coat of arms because Columbus is an oppressor. He used to be bringing in slaves from Africa to the Caribbean. He had no right being there, and the steel pan is our national instrument. It should be there. And if they could remove the Columbus boats from the coat of arms, they should remove him from the square as well.
For too long, to be so dumb. Steel band. That is the ammunition. Steel band. Steel band.
Steel band is tradition. Steel band more like more fit for the steel man. That's traditional thing.
That's a real good thing. Yeah. Columbus isn't good at all. That is fake. We steel pan, that is our thing. But they put that on the money. That's a very good idea to do in there.
In the meantime, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley has reiterated the call for the opposition leader to allow her members to take part in government's constitutional reform process.
Speaking at the PNM's special convention on Sunday evening, he chastised Mrs. Kamla Prasad-Bisasa for not allowing any of her representatives to be involved.
It would be a great satisfaction to me if the opposition leader will change her position and allow her people, since she's not interested in it, allow her people to take part in these proceedings so that the national interest can be served. I am not one of those, and the PNM is not one of those entities that believe that political groupings that are opposed to us are the enemy.
The Prime Minister said he believes members of the opposition and UNC representatives would have a fair amount to contribute to the constitution reform.
I have no doubt that there are people in the UNC who can contribute considerably to the national discourse and the national outcome. And it's a tragedy indeed if the leadership that they get is saying that we're not taking part in nothing. That is a tragedy. Because if we genuinely want to represent people, because we got to Parliament under the representation of the People's Act, that's what it's about.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick,
in association with our friends at
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
The Democratic Labour Party in Barbados will soon introduce a new social media presence. Acting President of the DLP, Andre Worrell, made the announcement while condemning the hosting of a meeting last evening under the auspices of the party. In a statement issued, Mr. Worrell says the party took note of the unauthorized live stream of the meeting on the party's official social media platforms. The statement comes after concerned party members in support of ousted former President Dr. Ronnie Yearwood and former General Secretary Steve Blackett held a meeting at the LLC School, which was shared via the DLP's official channels. A video circulating on social media shows Mr. Worrell and Acting General Secretary Pedro Shepard speaking to police officers on the school's compound. Well, at the meeting, Expelled DLP President Dr. Ronnie Yearwood acknowledged much has gone wrong at George Street, but it is now up to the membership to decide what becomes of the party.
Preliminary investigations have revealed a small group of members have effectively commandeered these platforms and are now using them in a manner that undermines the party's integrity and objectives. This is a disturbing development and a serious breach, as these platforms are the property of the party, intended to serve its collective mission.
The reality is you will have to make the difference to what becomes of the Democratic Labour Party and what becomes of the politics of Barbados. The only duty I've ever had is to serve my country, to serve my people, to serve my community, and so build a better Barbados for my family, for my friends, and for all of the people around me, so that they can live out the dreams that they need to live out.
Former Prime Minister of Barbados, Frederick, is urging Democratic Labour Party faithfuls to dismiss those who continue to gaslight the party. Mr. Stewart made the remarks at the monthly branch meeting at the St. Michael's Southeast Branch at the Parkinson Memorial School. Additionally, he says, after they lost the 2018 general elections, the DLP was capable of dealing with defeat and did not need a savior.
We need to get back to the real version of ourselves. We have not been relating to the real version of ourselves. And we need to get back to the real Democratic Labour Party. The Democratic Labour Party that spent 33 years of its existence in government and that won 7 of the last 16 elections in Barbados. But because of the gaslighting that had taken place, because our confidence was systematically dug at and overwhelmed, we still went in search of a Messiah. And he came. And he came, and from what I heard over the last few days, he's now left.
Magnitude 5.3 earthquake rocks Jamaica at 8:01 a.m. on Friday last. TVJ's Ramado Lyons reports.
Many Jamaicans were jolted awake Friday morning by shaking as a 5.3 magnitude earthquake a little after 8 o'clock shook the island. The earthquake unit says the epicenter was located approximately 6 kilometers northeast of Golden Spring in St. Andrew, but the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, says there have been reports that it was felt right across the island.
We have one report coming out of Donington Castle in St. Mary of a house there suffering some cracks. So that is to be officially confirmed. And an unconfirmed report of a gentleman that was in a tree. We don't really have the location, but my team is doing some checks, and that he was in the tree while at the point of the earthquake, and a limb broke and he suffered a broken hip.
There have been multiple small earthquakes recently.
We are extremely prone to earthquakes. And a big one can happen at any time. Once you're in an earthquake zone, the large one can happen at any time. So what you'll have is constant tremors. We have way in excess of 200 tremors per annum. Some are felt, some are not felt. We have had, I think, to date, 10 felt earthquakes since the start of this year.
Still, several people across the corporate area described today's earthquake as frightening. Psychologist Dr. Lakim Samaj says that's completely normal.
It is something that stays with you for quite some time. You keep imagining everything you hear and feel. You keep imagining that it's more earthquake, as we know that, yes, the tremors can continue for days.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean.
In the meantime, please follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily regional news and more, in association with our friends at Antillian Group.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so glad to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.